ready when you are, Dr. Moon.
You want to start your slideshow? You're running a slideshow mode. You hit F5 and it'll take you right there. There you go.
All right. Well, again, I'm so glad to see all of you. Y'all are looking fly. So good job on that. Today, I want to talk about the proper use of social media for your career advancement. But before I do that, I want to start off with a question. So with a raise of hands, how many of you have a social media and use it actively? Yeah, majority of us? Yeah, I use it a lot. Anyway, it's not the point. So I want to inform you guys about how this can really either break your career or help your career. So what I want to talk about is leveraging social media. My mom works as a hiring manager for this nanny company, and the first thing that she does when she looks to hire a new nanny is she checks her social media. So every time, she mostly goes to Facebook, and the minute that she sees something that is terrible or something that is not a good role model for kids, she immediately cuts them down. And she was talking to me about how we need to leverage social media for the use of your own benefit. This is something that we call social media pitfalls. Something that when you take advantage of the social media and make yourself look bad. Today in this speech, I want to talk about the necessity that it is important for you all to learn how to properly use social media for your career. We're going to be talking about the pros and cons, how to make a professional social media image, and the benefits of each platform. Let's start with pros and cons, and let's stay positive, so let's start with our pros. Pros and cons of social media, well, the advantages of social media is the connections. Connections are easier to make now than they ever have been before. You can meet and learn about someone quickly than you have been before in the past, where instead of having to talk with them face to face, you can connect with them easily. Engagement. You can engage with thought leaders and influencers. What are thought leaders? Denise Brasu, in her book, How to Be a Thought Leader in 2013, talks about thought leaders are someone who's at the top of their industry, and they teach you how to do better. They're like mentors to you. And that is something that we can really use to our advantage in social media. And we also have communication. Social media is a very fast way to communicate with someone. You can immediately get a response in a second or even in a minute, whereas before you would have to wait a day or two to get back to someone. Now I want to talk about the disadvantages, the negatives. Time and attention. Saree Rashid, she talks about in her article that she published in 2017, the pitfalls of social media. She says that social media can take too much time and attention away from your day-to-day. I can relate to this because my sister is actually a musician, and she posts on her Instagram story all the time. It's too much to the point where I have to fear being on her Instagram story, so I have to act natural. But it takes all of her time and attention, but she needs to be like this so her followers continue to follow her and recommend her to other people. Also, image. Cherie talks about how your image can be distorted, even though if it's not true. Someone can say something badly about you, and then they can believe it, even if it's not true about you. So that's something that kind of sucks. And then dependency. I feel like Dr. Mood has said that he's irritated about this, but sometimes we depend too much on social media to do our communicating for us. Instead of being able to go up and talk to someone and make eye contact and use body language, we hide behind a screen and just decide to do our communications through that. And Cherie talks about how that can be a huge negative in our society. But now that we talked about the pros and cons of social media, I want to talk about how we can make grow a social image, a professional image. We can start with understanding. Martin Jones, he is a communications manager for Cox Blue Company. He talks about that you need to understand your audience. Whenever you're using social media, you need to pick the right platform. So if you're into stunning goods or something that's really visual to the eyes, you would use Pinterest or Instagram. If you're looking for more professional, you would go to LinkedIn. Or if you're using word of mouth, you would do Twitter. You need to communicate, obviously. You need to be able to communicate with your audience and get to know them. Make it your journey to become not just connections with them, but also friends or partners, and build relationships with them. He also says you need to admit mistakes and respond to them. You can't If you make a mistake on the internet, it's there forever. You can't delete it. So he says instead of trying to backspace from that, admit it and respond quickly to people who point out your mistakes. And don't get angry about it. Just apologize for your mistake and move on from that. And he says that you need to engage. He says that you need to get to know people and also be willing to listen to them. He says the main things that you need to do is engage, listen, and respond. Now that we've talked about that, I want to move into our last thing, the benefits of different platforms. LinkedIn. We've all made LinkedIn pages for our homework, and we learned that it is a very good use for to make professional connections. It is said best not to use this more for job hunting, but build connections with people. Facebook is a good way to get to know thought leaders and influencers, and it also is said that on Facebook, you're able to share articles and share interests that you have with other people. Instagram. This is my favorite. Instagram, you're able to engage with your audience by using stories. Instagram has a feature where you can post on your story and talk with your audience and get to know them a little bit better. And also, this is the best way to visually build a social media image. But I want to bring it all together for you guys. Today we talked about the pros and cons of social media, how to build a professional image, and also the benefits of each platform. I want to inform you guys that it is necessary for you to learn how to properly use this. Social media is a huge, huge thing in our day-to-day lives, and by learning how to use it properly, you can grow your career way more than you ever expected. Or if you don't care about it, you can actually tarnish your entire career.
Jenna, continuing to set the good example. We're seeing a lot of intentionality in the words you're using and in the structure, the organization of your message. I think you picked a really good topic, a timely topic, one that offers a lot of important directions for us to focus in on nuances. And offering corrective comments, I'm going to focus on a nuance that you might have explored. I encourage all of you to explore this further. Some other things that are working really well with you. There's an indirect statement of experience. You've seen your mother manage social media, and clearly that's had an influence on you in seeing the judgments your mother makes as she's screening these nannies, looking out for pictures and then drinking and carrying on and carousing, I'm sure. Really clear preview as part of the introduction of your speech, great attention to sources within the body of your speech, and there was an idea that you picked up on that is a really important idea, that too often we over-rely on social media, information we put on a system that then presents our information to other people, and it's aggregated through algorithms, and if we rely just on that impression on others, we're not being intentional in forming a good impression. Identity management, working on that goal of communication. So that idea jumped off the page as really an interesting and important part of your speech. As a corrective comment, I think that this specific idea might lend itself to greater exploration, and focusing less on, just generally speaking, the pros and cons of social media. We might focus specifically on that phenomenon of people relying on Facebook or a LinkedIn profile, and just the information we submit on these sources as ways that maybe incorrect impressions are formed on our behalf through technology that's just happening automatically. There is a really important theoretical framework. I needed to Google it and make sure I have the name correctly. It's called social information processing theory. One of the leading researchers is a woman by the name of Judy Burgoon. This is one of the coolest theories to come out of communication research in the past 20, 25 years. And it focuses on the way that impressions can be formed through the way we use communication channels like social media that are incorrect. And what can happen is that a person can join a Facebook group, like a whole lot of people that appear on the surface to be really like-minded, and by passively, mindlessly communicating within these groups of like-minded people, we start to form judgments about others that are completely incorrect from the reality. Social information processing theory is a theory that explains why people are susceptible to getting catfished. Familiar with that term? This is where someone purports to be someone else on the internet. Well, why are people susceptible to that scam? Well, it's because when we communicate with someone within a group of like-minded people, and gosh, everyone in this group, everyone who has the same kind of profile picture as I have, must be like me, must be a person that shares my values and my morals and my sense of ethics. And sure enough, we have, who is that football? Was it Manti Te'o? Poor guy. Poor Manti Te'o and Lene. Never was there such a tale of woe than Manti and Lene. Okay, social information processing theory. Your interest in social media points to that as the next step for you to explore. I encourage all of you to explore Burgoon's social information processing theory, to know more ways that technology filters our communication in ways that can lead us incidentally to form incorrect impressions of other people. All right. Thanks, Jeff.